It's 9:30 at night and I'm drinking a Red Bull. Things are about to get real. Hello everyone, how are you doing? I hope that you are doing so very well. I guess this is gonna be a new thing, me and this couch here. Ever since I felt like sitting for a video, this just became a thing. So here we are at the couch again. Also, like usual, dog is right there. She'll be there the whole time. Not sorry about it. Today's gonna be my May wrap up, June TBR. I'm real excited about it. I read 10 books in the month of May, which is pretty good considering I got halfway through the month and I was like, I haven't read anything, and then I looked on Goodreads and was like, oh, just kidding. I have read a lot of things. The first book I read this month was Miss Mayhem by Rachel Hawkins. I got this from the library. Shout out to my local library. Thanks for doing you. I really enjoyed Miss Mayhem. I don't think that I liked it as much as Rebel Belle, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it. Harper is sassy as ever. All of the characters are just great and the story is great. Don't really want to say more than that because if you haven't read Rebel Belle, it'll be a spoiler. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. And I think everybody knows of my love for this book, but if you do not, I loved this book. I actually did a whole review on it, so you can click the book, take you to the review, you can see all of my thoughts. There are non-spoilery thoughts. No surprise, I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was The Magicians by Lev Grossman something. I don't ever know which way his name is pronounced. I should probably figure that out. I listened to this on audiobook from Overdrive and I freaking loved it. Oh my gosh, guys, it was so good. If you like Harry Potter, if you like Chronicles of Narnia, you will love it. The only part I didn't like was at the beginning when they are in the school section of the book. The author just kept reiterating that it was not Harry Potter and it was not Chronicles of Narnia and kept making comparisons, and I was like, stop comparing yourself, and that would happen again and again, and I was like, chill. But honestly, I really liked it. It was more of an adult book, so there was adult content, and the characters were a lot quirkier and had faults, and I do love my faulty characters that don't always make the right decision. I gave this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was Every Day by David Levithan. I read this with a couple of friends, I'll link them all down below, and I really liked it. There's a lot of interesting things that happen considering the protagonist wakes up in a different body every single day, so you can only imagine what that is like. It was definitely a really refreshing take on contemporary because it was so different from anything I've ever read. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was The Beginning of Everything by Robin Schneider. I was in the middle of reading like 3 other books and it was just taking me so long to get through them, and I was like, gotta pick up a really quick contemporary, and that was this book. Overall, I thought this was a really enjoyable read. There were definitely a few parts where the book felt like it was trying to be really meaningful and so deep, but it wasn't really that deep of a book. It was at some parts, but it wasn't like so amazingly intense, so good. So that was a little bit annoying. The main character was pretty great, but his love interest was kind of a very manic pixie dream girl-ish girl. She wasn't totally manic pixie dream girl, but she was definitely part manic pixie dream girl. So it was enjoyable. It was exactly what I expected, a quick contemporary to kind of get me moving, get me reading again. I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was I Was Here by Gail Foreman. I listened to the audiobook of this and I was not expecting to finish it in a day, but I did. Oh, I did. It was something that really like captured your attention, wanted you to read the whole thing in like one sitting. Definitely trigger warning for suicide for this book, so if you're triggered for that, kind of skip over this part. When you see me hold up the next book, you can listen again. I thought this book was really important for a lot of reasons, one being that suicide isn't something that's really discussed a lot, especially in young adult books. People may have committed suicide in the book, but it's not really a huge part of the story. And in this book, suicide is the major thing that happens. It is what moves the plot along. In that sense, I thought it was very important. I liked the characters alright. They weren't necessarily the greatest. I really liked Cody. I got annoyed with her at some parts because I was like, okay girl, stop what you're doing. And then Ben, I was kind of annoyed with that whole thing. If you've read the book, you know what I'm saying. Overall, I thought it was pretty good and definitely very important in the young adult world. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was For Year of Cosmere, and that was Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. I got this from the library. Shout out again to my local library for providing me with all the books. I know not everybody really liked Elantris, but I really did. It's definitely not as well written or as well rounded as the Mistborn trilogy, but I loved it all the same. Mostly because of the characters. Oh my gosh, the characters. Serene and Raoden. Oh my word. Also the minor characters, but mostly Serene and Readalong, and also mostly Serene. Their world's magic may not have been fully formed like it needed to be, and the world building may have been not as great as Mistborn, but the characters were so good. I loved Serene so much, and I rooted for her every step of the way, and the same thing with Readalong. I would read so many books about Serene. She is just that great. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was Inferno by Dante. If you're asking the question, is this the Inferno? Yes, it is. It took me like 2 months to read it, but in the end, I really did enjoy it. I found out after I read it that there are other translations. Did not know that was a thing, and then I read through Canto 1 of one of the other translations and was like, wow, this was a lot easier to read than this translation. Oops. So if you are not good with reading Old English, I do not recommend the Longfellow translation, but I definitely do recommend this book. I found a link to a free translation and is side by side with the Italian, so you can see the rhyming and the schematics of the poetry. I'll leave a link to that down below. It's really great to have read Inferno to just have that background knowledge of the book because it's referenced in so many other pieces of literature. Dante's picture of Inferno is so interesting, and just like the punishments that he has for the different kinds of people and the way he describes things. I definitely want to reread Inferno in a different translation so I can maybe understand it a little bit better, and I want to read the rest of the Divine Comedy just to have that under my belt. Someday it'll happen. Also, another thing I did while reading this, because I couldn't understand it very well because of the Old English, was read SparkNotes. Kids, you can use SparkNotes as a tool to help you read books, not instead of reading the books for school. Reading SparkNotes after I read a couple cantos was very, very helpful. It helped me understand what had happened, since I didn't understand it because the translation was just like so hard to understand. And I knew I had missed some things, so SparkNotes helped me pick up the major things that I may have missed. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson. This is a Christian non-fiction book, so this is not going to appeal to everybody, but I wanted to talk about it since I did read it. I loved this book. A lot of my friends at church have raved about this book, and I've heard about it so much in the Christian community, but I had not read it yet, and now I am so glad that I did. It's phenomenal, and Mark Batterson has a really great way of writing books that's kind of like storytelling mixed with like the actual theology, and that makes things a lot easier to read, in my opinion. I could just sit down and like read this for hours and hours and hours. If you are a Christian, I definitely recommend this book. There's a lot about prayer, and it definitely encouraged me and challenged me in a lot of ways, and I definitely learned a lot from reading it. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. And the last book I read, kind of, I'm not done quite yet, but I am almost there, is Percy Jackson's Greek Gods. I'm probably not gonna hold this up the whole time because it's real heavy, but look how beautiful. Beauty, so much beauty. Okay, that's enough. I am currently listening to this on overdrive, and it's so funny. Oh my gosh, like, you think Percy is funny in the books? Just listen to the audiobook of Percy Jackson's Greek Gods. It's just all the Percy all the time, and his version of telling the Greek god stories is so hilarious. There's modern day references and just everything. It's so good. I also really like learning more about the Greek gods because, to be honest, I don't know a lot about Greek mythology. I know like the major plot points, but I don't know any details. So it was really interesting to hear more about the Greek gods and more of their full and complete stories. I only have about an hour left, so I'm gonna go ahead and give this book a 5 out of 5 stars because I loved it so much. Percy the Sass Master continues in this book for sure. And I'm also gonna talk about the one book that I DNF'd this month, In the Light of What We Know by Zia Hader Rahman. I know I was gonna read this book, but I could not get through it. I'll link my Goodreads review of it down below. It kind of goes more into my issues. There's just a lot of British politics stuff that I didn't understand, and the writing style was just not my cup of tea. I can't give it a star rating because I didn't finish it. I only got about 6 chapters in, but let me tell you, it was just rough. First book I've ever DNF'd, did not finish. So sad, but it's okay. We were just not meant to be. Now let's move on to the TBR. I'm doing a couple different things this month. I'm doing Month of Madsen and 5 Faves. If you don't know what that is, click here. You can go see my announcement video for it. And I'm also doing TBR Takedown, hosted by Shannon over at Leaning Lights. This reading challenge is happening from June 1st to June 7th, so if you haven't heard about it yet, I'll link Shannon's video down below. You should definitely join in. It's gonna be so fun! First 3 books. Second Chance Summer, Since You've Been Gone, and Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson for Month of Matson. And Amy and Roger's Epic Detour is counting towards 5 faves. Really pumped to reread all of these books. Morgan Matson is bae, and she is great, and I really hope that all of you participate in Month of Matson because her books are so good. You deserve to read them. Treat yourself, read her books. So that's all for 5 faves in Month of Matson for me. And for TBR Takedown, this is must stack. I know there's only 5 categories and there are 6 books here. I will explain it all, don't you worry. The first category is a book that's been on your TBR shelf for over a year. For this I have Ask the Passengers by A.S. King. I got this with Jess at Prices Wong last May, I believe, so it's been over a year. It's time to read this book and get it off my TBR shelf and onto my red shelf. Yeah. The next category is an unread sequel that's sitting on your TBR shelf. I did not have any unread sequels, so for this I'm going to be reading both The Last Policeman and Countdown City by Ben Winters. These are the first 2 books in the Last Policeman trilogy, which I have yet to read. I know I could read The Last Policeman for the next category on this list, which is a first book in a series, but I like to challenge myself, okay? The next category is the first book in a series, and for that I've got The Selection by Kiera Cass. Still have yet to read this trilogy. I've kind of been avoiding it, so it's time to read this book. Gonna happen. The next category is a book that's out of your comfort zone, and for that I have Montana by Larry Watson. Literally no idea what this book is about. Doesn't really look like something that I would normally pick up or read, so gonna challenge myself, gonna read it. It's also pretty short, so I think I can do it. And the last category is a book from your most recent book haul, and for that I've got Landline by Rainbow Rowell. This was in my bargain book haul, which I posted pretty recently, and I've been wanting to read this book, so perfect opportunity. The next book I'm going to be reading this month for no challenge or no readathon is Undaunted by Christine Kane. I want to keep up reading the religious books on my shelf because I have a lot that I haven't gotten to, so gonna read this one this month. I'm really excited. The last book that I'm going to read to fulfill my read a classic a month challenge for myself is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. I've heard mixed things on Northanger Abbey, so I'm really interested to see if I will like it or if I will dislike it. Who knows? No one knows. We'll see. I'm excited. And look how beautiful this copy is. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And that's it for my TBR. That's all I've got for this month. Let me know what you're gonna be reading this month down below, and if you are participating in TBR Takedown, 5 faves, or Month of Matson. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Fading fast. The light is fading fast. Okay. Everything is so dark. Jeez. Sorry. Back and brighter than ever. Oh wow, I am getting really hyped up. It's so bright. So bright and so shiny and so new. Don't even care. YOLO. So it's almost books for my freaking word. I swear to heaven. So, yes.